I'm Mike Costello, and I'm here with Dr. Iris Freelander. And today we'd like to discuss with you the ways in which we can share the art of being present. And I think we all have the challenge of being present in the now. And in metaphysics, we talk a lot about being in the now. But even more than being in the now, the simple act of being present with other people is an art that we all need to work on. And I think there's a balance that we can kind of strive for. We can't be present, and we ought not to be present always with people, and yet when are communicating with them or when we're sharing with them, we need to share, or we need to be in the midst of that presence when we need to be. And it's finding the balance, isn't it, Iris?
Yes, it is. And the art of listening is truly a wonderful art. And someone sent me 3 pages this week, faxed some information to me on listening. And a part of it is worth repeating. Well, it's all wonderful, but part of it was saying that when I tell you I'm having a rough time of it, and I need to have you listen, just listen. Don't give me solutions. Don't give me answers. Just listen, because what I want is to have you hear me. And that's a very important part, the art of listening and keeping your consciousness in present time. Instead of when someone is telling us something, if we listen to what they're saying, then we're going to hear what they're saying, and we're going to give them a chance to talk more if they wish. Because if we interrupt and give a long monologue, then they've lost their place.
That's tremendously important, to let people say what they need to say or want to say to us, and to truly listen. And that listening technique is a large part of being present with them, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And one of the things that I've found that I encourage people to do when someone is speaking to them is to make eye contact, because it's a little harder for our minds to wander when we have eye contact. And you know, in counseling work, as do I, that it's very easy for counselors and individuals who are involved in talking to people to allow their minds to wander. And of course, it's true for any of us. And when we were little children, our mothers, when we would get in trouble, would often say, "Look at me," you know, and that was which is a very good admonition, because we really do need to look at the people with whom we're communicating, and especially the people who are speaking to us. And as we look at them, we need to be present in consciousness and awareness, so that we're understanding, or at least we're trying to understand that which they're saying to us. And one of the techniques that I found to be very useful in practicing this presence, or the art of presence, especially in communication, is as I'm listening, because our tendency, just as you shared a few minutes ago, is to jump right in and to respond before the other person is finished, or to share the idea or the next idea or concept that we want to share. And I think one of the things that I found to be real helpful, is to make eye contact. And then as people are talking, rather than thinking about how I want to respond to it or what I need to say to it, instead, going over in my mind what it is I believe they're saying to me. So it's a validation, but it's also keeping me in sync with them and getting out of myself and letting them finish. And this act of listening, and it's wonderful that you brought us into this so quickly in the discussion, but this importance of listening in order to practice the presence, the art of the presence, is just overwhelmingly important, especially as we're dealing with relationships, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And there's 2 things we do when we give our full attention to the speaker. One, we're giving them the respect that they've asked for, that they wanted to talk. Well, they need to say whatever it is they need to say. And another, when we give them our one-pointed concentration, we're giving them energy, because as you say so wonderfully, everything is vibration, everything is energy. And so we're sending our energy to them, and it helps. And that's why people can be at their very best at times in their thinking and in their working through their problems, when they're talking with a counselor who truly, or a friend, who truly gives undivided attention, because we're giving them extra energy. It's just like the deep breathing. We talk about deep breathing all the time, and that gives us the needed energy. Well, others, we can give each other energy, and what a nice gift it is to just send someone energy. And we can say to someone, "I'll send you energy," when we don't know what else to say, and it helps.
It does, and I think of times when I've been in a group or maybe a board meeting or even in a larger setting where someone's giving a speech or a
Hmm.
talk, and we all know that many people are frightened of that, and luckily both of us are not, but many people are. But so often when people lose their place or are very self-conscious or are very timid, if other people in the room send them
Hmm.
send them healing, send them strength,
Hmm.
and send them empowerment, and
Hmm.
send them clarity of mind, that vibration translates, and
Hmm.
that is a magnificent demonstration of what happens when we're present with that person.
Hmm.
The person may be on the platform behind a podium, or they may be at the other end of the conference table, or they may be sitting around the dining room table in a family
Hmm.
situation, and just sending them what they need to bring them peace or bring them clarity of mind or bring them strength, just is present with them and sends them something dynamic and wonderful.
Yes, and when we do, they feel it, and we feel it too. We feel the exchange of energy. And anytime we can exchange that wonderful energy with anyone, it's truly an act of God, isn't it?
Mhm. Absolutely, and so tremendously important as we deal with relationships in the world today. One of the things that we have such difficulty with is communicating with each
Yes.
other, and communicating in a very honest and an open fashion. But if we aren't even present at the moment in which we're really in the midst of some important discussion, and it's important to think of the fact that almost all of the communication we have unimportant conversations among ourselves and our family and friends and coworkers, but many times what we're saying is important and what they are saying to us is important.
Yes, and
Yes.
one of the important parts is it's an affirmation of what you say is important to me,
Mhm.
what you think is important to me, and just letting the other person know that they're valuable means all the difference in the world. And it wouldn't matter because we do that, as you said, by giving our attention.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't matter what our response is because we're giving that attention and that energy exchange.
And as we give that attention, we're saying to that person, we value you.
Yes.
And I think that's is a tremendously important lesson. And so many times when we're talking with people about relationship problems, one or the other will say that he or she just doesn't value me. I'm nothing to them. I'm
Yes.
nothing to them. And of course, when we get into a situation where we're talking with someone has been through years of this, feeling that they're nothing, or
Hmm.
feeling that their spouse or their friend or their companion views them as nothing, then that hurt goes so deep and is so damaging. It's a very difficult thing to overcome, and sometimes a very difficult thing to heal, isn't it?
Yes, it's very sad. And as ministers and counselors, we see people all the time who are beaten down by someone who's close to them, who doesn't ever validate them, and it shows after a time, and it makes them look older and less attractive and all those things. So as we can bring them up and make them value themselves more, that's truly one of the most wonderful things we can do
Mhm.
in our work, in our field, is to help validate people and just let them know they truly are important. And everyone is important in the eyes of God. Everyone is equal in the eyes of God.
Mhm.
So if we can let people know that, it makes a big difference in the way they heal and the way they go on with their lives. And then if they really must continue living in that untenable situation, it's far less untenable.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely true. I saw a lady recently in a park, and she was pushing her daughter. I don't know that it was her daughter, but a young girl on the swing. And as she was pushing the young girl on the swing, with one hand, in the other hand, she had a book, and she was reading a book. And which may have been completely appropriate to the situation, but certainly I don't think that little girl had any feeling that there was any presence there. And the mother or the aunt or whoever was with her certainly was there from a safety standpoint, but that's about all that was there. So that presence just wasn't there. And I think it's important for people to realize that when they do have opportunities to show their affection
Hmm.
and their concern and their love and simply their respect in some
Hmm.
instances, that they do that by putting the book down.
Yeah.
And one of the things in counseling that a classic issue that so many couples deal with is husbands with their newspapers.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we all have seen situations, restaurants, which is kind of amazing to me. You'll see two people come into a restaurant, obviously, who know each other. They've come together and they sit down and they each. I was recently in Palm Springs in a restaurant, and there were two couples, one younger and one older, Both came in. The men had newspapers and the ladies had books. They sat down to the table and they opened their newspaper and their books and never said a word to each other. And it is a sad commentary when that goes on in life. Now, there are appropriate times for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that at any time we should be present always, because we can overdo that. And there are a lot of people who have gotten themselves into that kind of a problem as well. But there are times when we need to be present and when we need to demonstrate our presence, and we need to validate other people. We need to respect other people. We need to show that.
Exactly. And what you just said is very interesting along that thought. And further, people who are trying to lose weight will not lose weight if they read while they're eating, so the experts say. And the experts are all saying that now, that don't read and don't watch TV and don't keep, they're really saying keep your consciousness on your own body. Because then you'll achieve that which you wish to. And also your body will know that it's satisfied with a lesser amount of food, because it is truly satisfied with that lesser amount, because we've been giving it that attention. And if we can remember that our bodies know and will respond, then it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. And our physical bodies do respond to the way that we think about them.
Exactly, because the psychologists and all those so-called experts are telling us now that we need to give our attention to eating when we're eating, and being grateful for the food, being grateful that we're able to put this food into our body, and blessing the food. And as we said earlier, the food will change in quality. I believe it truly does. Because anytime anyone blesses whatever it is they're blessing, asking God's blessing on that, whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive, we receive that blessing. And so it makes a difference. And as we bless the food, as we're eating it, or just appreciate it and grateful to it, then it makes a difference as we process it in our bodies.
And that aspect of giving reverence, if you will, to even such a thing as food, or being present in that moment when we're eating, makes us one with the act that we're involved in, and makes the act itself then makes it sanctified and holy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And as we keep our consciousness in present time, our energies are one-pointed. And as the energies are one-pointed, they serve the purpose that we're sending them out for. It's just like if you shoot a bullet, it goes straight ahead and does that work. And if you shoot a gun that has all those little pellets in it, well, they're scattered. And that might be an analogy of how the energy works in our own body. We can send the energy out in a one-pointed way, or we can just scatter it by not thinking strongly about whatever it is we're putting our attention to. And as we keep our consciousness in present time, we're more healthy because our energies are not scattered. And as we work with other people who look to us for help, then we're able to help them be more one-pointed. And that's the way we get things accomplished, and that's the way our bodies work best.
And unfortunately, there are those among us who never are present and therefore are scattering their energies always, and they have that feeling in their bodies and in their being. We'd like to pause at this point in the program and offer you the opportunity to receive some literature so that you can continue the study of the ideas and concepts we're sharing with you today.
We would like to give you the opportunity to explore and discover in your own home the new thought teachings that this program is sharing with you by sending you a free copy of one of these booklets. Simply address your request to Confident Living at P.O. Box 7726, Long Beach, California, 90807. Whatever your dream, whatever your vision, you can reach it through confident living.
Before the break, we were talking about the dissipating of our energies through this lack of being present. And when we do just allow our energies to be scattered, we are less whole, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and therefore less able to accomplish that which we wish to, concentrating when we're reading, working out problems in our work, whatever that might be, or just keeping our physical energy high enough so that we can have the energy to do what we want to do. All of that can be controlled by us, by our thoughts, and by our how we direct our energy.
And of course, what we say on this program, and we say at the center, and I've been saying for 25 years, is that we live in our minds.
Yes.
And it's really the way that our minds act and react and respond to circumstances and situations that determines the quality of our life. And what we teach in metaphysics is that by uniting our mind with divine mind, by uniting our conscious awareness with the awareness of God, and of course, fundamental to our teaching is that that presence resides within us. We're not looking at something that's outside us, we're looking at something that's inside us. So if we can be present with ourselves and present with that which is divine, and then we can in turn be present with the experiences that we're having momentarily, and they're changing, of course, then we can have a very positive and affirmative result from the experiences that we have, the personal relationships that we have, the communications that we have. And someone said to me after a lecture recently, a couple of weeks ago, that suggested to me that we spend more time, and that I spend more time in the teaching, and that we spend more time in the lectures on Sunday talking about communication. And at first blush, I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of a dry subject. But then as she was speaking to me more about the issue of communication, everything has to do with communication, doesn't it?
Yes, it
and
does.
Even our spirituality has to do with how effectively we're present with God, or present with the divine, and how often we're present with that reality inside us versus how often we feel that we're detached from it and it's outside. So this presence, the idea of practicing being in the present, is in truth founded and rooted in communication. And you began the talk so beautifully today when with the importance of listening skills. But listening skills are a part of communication,
Yes.
and being present means to communicate, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. When you put it together like that, it's very rich, and it's richly rewarding for us to think about and for our audience to think about and to practice that. Practice being in the presence, practice being in the presence is so deep, isn't it? And if the thought itself centers us and helps us to be more alert and more aware. So it would be an exciting thing for our people who are listening to work at these things and take the suggestions you've offered and see how it makes their life different, and see how much more richly rewarding life is. Not only those people who are more significant in their lives in a richly family or rewarding relationship way, but everyone, to just give that person attention and see how it affects then that one who's checking it all out. Because it would be a rewarding experience, wouldn't it?
It would. And just thinking about the job experience, I read recently someone who had written a wonderful article about dealing with work situations and dealing with strife in the workplace. And the writer was talking about how many people are unhappy with their supervisors or their bosses, and yet no one or few people have problems taking breaks and going to lunch. And so taking breaks and going to lunch is something that we do because we want to do it, and we look forward to it because it's a positive time. But what this writer was suggesting was that if workers in the workplace looked forward to communicating with their supervisors and their bosses and their co-workers as much as they look forward to their breaks and their lunches, and spend as much time communicating with them on an individual basis where they were present with them, which means the things that we're talking about: sitting down, stopping what we're doing, listening truly to what people are saying, making eye contact, being present with the person. Well, if we think about an 8-hour workday, there are 2 breaks and there's a lunchtime, so we're talking about anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes. And if there was 40 to 60 minutes of meaningful communication, especially with those to whom we report in the workplace, we'd begin to we'd begin to feel differently about the people that we work for. And it was a very positive thought process.
That's wonderful. And also, I just now remembered this morning I had to greet the plumber who came to open the main drain in front of my house, and it's been stopped up during the holiday, not totally, but a little, well, a lot. And so, he came from a distance, and so I when I saw him drive up, I went out on the front porch, and I greeted him. I said, "I greet you and I welcome you." And so I could see him change, and I never thought of it at that moment. But while you were talking, I remembered it, and his attitude and his demeanor was so nice, and it's like he came to make a social call instead of to clean out this drain, and also he must have unconsciously picked up the fact that I wasn't harboring negativity toward the drain or toward him for being late or toward, because everything was fine. And so, but that's a very good thought to put out to others to follow suit. And you know what? The girl who answered the phone said it would be $29.95 for the initial evaluation, and that would be applied toward the cost. And I said, so he said, you want to know how much this is going to cost before he started? And I said, well, yeah, but the girl told me, and I said that. And he said, well, it's going to be, he opened his book and he showed me $145 to clean out that main line, and there's an easy access. So I said to him, you know, I've never paid $145, and I don't think I want to pay that. So I'm sorry you've had to make this trip. And he said, well, I could adjust it. And so he adjusted it to $69.95. And I was just thinking, I don't think he would have done that if I'd been grumpy.
No. Or if you hadn't been present with him in that communication. Here you were present with the plumber, which is totally appropriate. And
that's why he's there.
That's why he's there. Another example that I give to people often, and you've heard me share it before in lectures that I've given, but and we're all guilty of this, especially, I think most of us, I certainly am, I eat out a lot, and so often we'll be in a restaurant, and we'll look at the menu, and we'll decide what we want, and the waitress comes up, and typically waitresses come up and say, hello, I'm Bunny, I'll be serving you today, or I'll be helping you. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, but many times they do. Usually they do. And I'm not very good with names, and that's not probably, but because I don't practice the art of the present. And so often they'll say, I'm Bunny, or I'm John, or I'm whoever, and I'll be serving you. And then this person, this waiter or waitress takes our order, brings the food, and we're either with people or reading the paper if we're by ourselves, doing the things that keep us out of the present and keep us from being present in the moment. And then after the food comes, we find that we want some ketchup, or we want some condiment, or we want something that we need, or we want a bill. And after we've been there, we've ordered our food, this person has been to our table 2 or 3 times, and we look around and we don't even know what they look like. We don't know who they are. And that is just an example of exactly what we're talking about.
Should be an embarrassment.
It should be an embarrassment, but it's not. But it shouts to us that we have not been present with that person, we have not acknowledged that person, and that there was absolutely no communication. There was no communication, and there was very little listening involved, which is all of the things that we're talking about. And it's not only the waiters and the waitresses and the store clerks and the plumbers. It's our coworkers, it's our family, our friends, our loved ones, and our neighbors that we do exactly the same thing to. And it's not, we're not indicting anyone, we're indicting ourselves, all of us. Because what we're talking about today is ways in which we could all benefit from practicing being in the present moment with people.
And we're saying, look within yourself, see what you need to change, and your life will be far richer if you do. And it's not that we're preaching, we're suggesting that everyone listen and look and be aware of their own circumstance. And keeping your consciousness in present time is one of the ways to stay healthy. One of the most important ways to keep healthy, mentally and physically healthy, and spiritually.
Absolutely, because then we're open channels. And we send love and positive affirmation out, and love and positive affirmation come back to us. And as we acknowledge and listen and are sensitive to other people and to the present moment, that present moment rewards us because we're fully a part of it. And then the magnificence of it is that at the end of our life, we will have felt that we lived, instead of coming to the end of our life and wondering, where did all the time go?
And sometimes we're by necessity with people in groups who are not all that delightful. But if we just accept them as, yes, this is a child of God, this is as important, this person is as important in God's eyes as anyone ever could possibly be, then I think our attitude toward that person changes and it enriches their lives. Because not everyone can stay up all the time. Sometimes we need that extra energy that others can give us. And a lot of people don't know how to meet defeat and problems in a positive way. But if we offer them that energy, then it helps them to meet the adversities of life in a more positive way.
And it helps them to be positive by the very nature of our being present.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't seem like we're accomplishing much, it does, because they're seeing something, even in their subconscious, that makes them begin to think in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's we can look within ourselves and see what we need to do and what helps us accomplish what we wish to accomplish, and follow through on that. And very often we don't do that looking. We don't look within to see, because God is within us, within every person. And if we just know that God is within, we're accessing God's own energy, it makes a big difference. And then when they send that energy out, we send it with greater velocity, with greater energy.
And that presence, that divine presence in me, meets the divine presence in you. And as we communicate and see that in other people, and then we become stronger, and we actually become one, which is what we're meant to be, all brothers and sisters, which is what we all talk about all of the time, but we don't practice so often.
That's really interesting. Just as I was leaving the house today, a young lady called and wanted a past life therapy session, and she was talking about spiritual values. And so she said, you have given, and we were talking about light and how everything is light. And we can call it energy, we can call it light, it's synonymous. And so I was trying to make her see in just a few words how the light is within her and she can bring it forth. And she said, you've helped me see the light today, just the way you said what you said to me in such a brief time, because I warned her in advance that, well, I need to leave the house very quickly. And so I said, I'm going to use that on the show today. And I hadn't thought of it until this moment. But it's appropriate right here.
It is.
Because of what she said, that I had helped her see light.
And we hope that in this half hour together, you have seen the light in terms of the art of being present in the moment. We hope that the information we've shared with you has been useful, and we look forward to seeing you next time.